Hi, this is Donna. Welcome to DD Paper Crafts. In today's video, I'm going to be making this gift box, which is based around a handbag, which I saw on Pinterest. It's essentially a round box, but by adding the panels on, it has a hexagonal look to it. You could make an overall hexagonal shape, and I will cover that later in the video. The box is approximately 5 3/4, 5 7/8 inch in diameter, 3 inches high before it starts to slope in, and it's overall 5.5 inches tall. The one thing I do in the video is I cut the circle base to 6 inches, and it was actually slightly too big. So I would suggest that you measure your base properly, particularly if you want to try and get the circular shape as I have, and then cut your base accordingly. I will show you in the video, but you can see that I've then had to trim down my circular base because it was actually too big. So that aside, let me show you how I put the box together. You'll need 2 pieces which are 9.5 by 6.5, and I've chosen the pieces this size. So when we add them together, if you exclude the glue tabs, that will give us 18 inches, and that's divisible by 6. So that has made life just a little bit easier in terms of the scoring. You'll do the same scoring on both pieces. Along the 6 inch side, score at 1/2 inch, and along the long side, score at 9 inches. Keep the piece in the scoreboard. I'm going to use my ruler and line my ruler up with the 3 inch mark on the left hand side. Make sure the ruler is parallel, and at 3 inches score down to the ruler, and do the same at 6 inches. And at 9 inches I'm going to make a little pencil mark just on the score line. Depending on the base cardstock you're using, you might want to just put a pencil mark at the end of the score lines if it's going to make it easier for you to see. We can rub these out after. And now, either with your score tool or with your pencil, make a mark at 1.5 inches, 4.5 inches, and 6.5 inches. And then remove your ruler and make a pencil mark at 3 inches along the left hand edge. So we've got our 3 inch mark here, our 3 inch score lines down to 3 inches, our 3 inch mark here, and our pencil marks or notch marks, which are splitting this section, and this section in half. Take your ruler and a stylus, and we're now going to score from the top pencil mark down to the right hand 3 inch pencil mark, like so. From the top pencil mark down to the bottom of the score line, top pencil mark down. So we're going to create an additional triangle within each 3 inch section. I'm going to line my stylus up with my pencil mark, rotate my ruler until it's at the top pencil mark, and then score, like so. Do the same, put my stylus in my pencil mark, rotate my ruler, and score. So we now have an additional scored triangle within this 3 inch section. Do that all the way along. Repeat that on both pieces, and before I do anything else, I'm just going to get rid of the pencil marks. Fold and burnish along your base glue tab and along your side glue tab. I'm going to fold each piece independently and then join the 2 pieces together. The vertical score lines we're going to fold as mountain folds. Fold your piece over, and then each of the diagonals are going to be valley folds. So take your time to get the score lines as crisp as you can, getting a nice point at the bottom of the triangles and at the top of the triangles. So your piece will look something like this. Take your scissors and remove the bottom right hand square and take a wedge from the bottom and the top of this side glue tab, like so. And then along this base glue tab, we're going to cut a series of teeth. We're now going to add glue to the long glue strip here and add these two pieces together. So what will happen is we will then join up the two ends to create our bag. So our bag is going to sit and the top pieces will fold in and our bag will come together like so. So this is how our bag is going to come together. Although the bag I showed at the beginning has a hexagonal look, it's actually going to be on a round base. Because of the way I want my bag to look, I'm going to add my decorative pieces onto the bag while it's still flat, because I think that's going to be easier for the glue, etc. to fit. So I'm going to add my panels and my triangular panels on, and then I will punch the holes into the triangular panel, then glue the bag together and add on the base. If you're going to decorate your bag differently, don't want the hexagonal look, then you can skip forward to the point where we start to add the holes into the top of the bag. If you want to decorate yours the same effect as mine, I made a template for both this panel and this panel for the mats. For this piece, I have a piece of cardstock which is 2 3/4 and it is 5 5/8 of an inch across. At 1 3/8 across, I made a pencil mark for the halfway mark, and then I started my angle at 2 7/8 from the bottom edge, and that gave me a look I was happy with within this central section. For the triangle pieces, and obviously you'll need to bear in mind you're going to have one which sits that way and one which sits that way. Again, I cut myself a rectangle which was 1 1/2 inches by 2 5/8 of an inch, and then I've cut across from the bottom left hand corner to the top right hand corner, and that gave me a triangle that I was happy with in that space. So I'm now going to use these templates to cut out the mat pieces for these sections. So I will need 6 of this and I will need 12 of these. 6 facing that way and 6 facing that way. And just one thing to note, I'm going to be embossing these pieces with a 3D embossing folder, and I'm going to emboss the cardstock and then cut it down to size, because if I cut my triangles or my shapes to this size to start with and then emboss them, the embossing is going to stretch the card slightly and will make these a slightly different size. So I'm going to emboss first and then cut. I've added all of the decorative panels on, and I'm now going to fold under the first panel on the left hand side and put the holes in for my ribbon, and I'm going to have them about 3/4 of an inch in from the left hand side and 1/2 inch down. So I'll just make a pencil mark. I'm going to use a stationer's hole punch because this is going to give me the size hole that I need. So that's put through the 2 sections which are going to point outwards, and I'm then going to fold it over and trace inside that one. So I'm going to do this all the way along, just put the holes in across the top. Now I can add my glue to the long glue tab, pull this side over and get that glued into place and lined up. Put my bag into shape. The centre score line will be facing out and the diagonals will be facing in. As you pull them together, you'll get this arched side. So we'll do that all the way around. Just manipulate them into place so they will come together like so. So that's how the top will come together. I'm going to flip it over and measure across the bottom, which is going to be 6 inches. You could, if you have a hexagon die, cut a hexagon die the right size to fit on the bottom. Alternatively, I'm going to have a circle which is 6 inches in diameter, and I'm going to stick that onto the bottom. So if you have a circle die the right diameter, or if you've got something slightly bigger that you can then trim around the outside, or you might have a circle cutter. So I've cut myself a 6-inch circle with my circle cutter. I want the bag to retain the round shape, but with the illusion of a hexagon. So I'm going to just go in with my score tool and curve around like so. The bottom of it has lost its hexagonal shape, as it were. So I'm now going to go around, add glue to the teeth. Now I'm going to go in, sit my circle on the top, and gradually work my way around from the top and from the bottom and manipulate that onto the base. So I'm going to get it roughly in the right place to start with, flip it over, and then work my way from the inside. I've added my 6-inch circle on, and you can see that I could have actually gone for a smaller diameter. I am just going to make sure that it is pushed right the way out as far as it will go. And I'm just pushing in with my knuckle to make sure that I retain the circular shape. So that's as curved as I'm going to get it. So I'm now going to go in with a new blade in the craft knife and go around and trim off the excess around the bottom. I've trimmed off round the circle as best I could, and I'm quite happy with that. I then cut a slightly smaller circle to go down inside, and you can see just by the little bits of the base glue tab that my circle isn't quite circular, but it's a handmade bag. I'm not going to lose any sleep over it. And I'll just show you now, if you did decide you wanted to go for more of a hexagonal look, this is the prototype that I made. You could just score all the way down, whereas we stop our score lines on this one at 3 inches. Just continue the score line to the bottom of the section, and rather than cutting the serrated teeth into the base glue tab, cut from the bottom of the cardstock up to the 1/2-inch score line, and that will give you your glue tab for your hexagon. So now the box is finished, all I've done is thread some ribbon through the holes at the top and added a simple bow. I'm really happy with how the box has come out, and I think with the embossed panels I don't actually need to add any additional embellishment to this. So here's the finished project. I hope you've enjoyed today's video. If you haven't done so already, please consider subscribing to the channel, and until next time, thanks for watching.